Well, we're back with part 3 on the 1998 Yamaha Grizzly 600 4x4. So if you guys missed the last couple videos on this machine, we picked this thing up for $700. Really good deal. But the seller stated it wouldn't go over 15 miles an hour. So we got back home, started diagnosing it, and we pretty much checked every single thing you could check on this machine. Last video we went through all the checks you guys recommended. We went through the wet clutch area over here, took out the wet clutch, looked at that, and I actually contacted the seller again. He said that the wet clutch was brand new, that the owner before him put that in and it was brand new. So we can rule that out completely. That's a brand new wet clutch. We took off the primary, secondary clutch, those look good. The belt was riding up on the clutches and then riding down in the secondary. So we know that the belt and the clutches were moving. Took apart the whole primary clutch. Everything looked good there. The weights look good. No problems at all there. We took apart the carb like 4 times. Nothing wrong with the carb. All the stock jets were in the carb. We took apart the stator side last video to check out the pickup coil and the stator, and everything looks good there. Not a single issue with that. All the wiring's intact. No shorts. The stator ohmed out correctly. The pickup coil ohmed out correctly. And the coil ohmed out correctly. The flywheel magnets look good. Nothing wrong with those. It was timed correctly. The woodruff key isn't sheared. So we checked everything you could possibly check, which led us to believing that the CDI was the problem. So I actually contacted our good friends at Power Sports Nation to see if they had a CDI laying around, and sure enough, they were able to send me a used CDI for a 1998 Yamaha Grizzly 600. They pretty much have every single part you can imagine. So we got that sent to us. We are going to try that today. This is basically our last hope with this machine. If this does not work, I have no idea what could be wrong. The only other possible thing is like something internally in the carburetor is broken that you can't see. So what we might have to do if this doesn't work is buy another machine exactly like this and try swapping parts. Because this CDI alone was over $300. I think it was $350. So this is getting pretty expensive. So luckily Power Sports Nation sent us that for free so we can try it out. Today we are hopefully going to fix this one up with the new CDI and finally be able to ride this thing. This has been a pain in the butt. So hopefully this is the fix and we can move on from this machine. All right, first thing we're gonna do is put a new gasket on here. The old one looks like somebody put a bunch of gasket maker and then the gasket ripped and it was leaking a bunch of oil down below and onto my driveway. So we can't have that. So we bought a brand new gasket for it. I think it was 15 bucks. These gaskets are getting really expensive, but we're gonna install that. First we have to peel off the old one. Get in here and just peel this one off. This is gonna be a little tricky because it's all full of gasket maker. So, but hopefully it won't leak at the end of this. All right, gasket maker all cleaned off of it. Old gasket off. That took me about 30 minutes to clean that all off. Now we're gonna put new gasket maker on it just to hold that gasket in place as we put the cover on. Just a very thin amount of this. This is just to hold it in place. Gonna go on just like this. Make sure those are all on. Starter's in place. All right, this can go back on. All right, that looks good. All right, coming over to the clutch side, you can see that the gasket is ripped right down here. So that would have been leaking like crazy. So we're gonna take that off, get the new one on. This doesn't look like the highest quality gasket. At least it came off easily. All right, so here is the wet clutch. As you can see, that looks brand new, and it is, because the seller told me it was. So that can go on here, just like that. And then we've got the nut that goes on here. Just normal righty-tighty. One more for good luck. Just like that. Alright, that's not coming off. Gasket going on here. It's gonna go on just like this. It just holds that down for me. Clutch hub piece on there. This is gonna go on just like this. We might have to rotate it a little bit because it's got that one-way bearing. There we go. That went on pretty smooth. Alright, this goes on. Other piece that goes on here. Primary clutch going on, so this piece goes on first. Get that on. Goes on just like that. Then we took apart the clutch here. The weights were all greased up, everything's greased up, everything looks perfect. So we can get this back on. Brake has to come down in order to do it. There we go. Just like that. You've got your washer. Nut. It's gonna go on just like this. With just the nut. then we can get the belt on. So to get the belt on, we're just gonna put a screw in here. It will open up that secondary, then you can squeeze that belt on. So here's the old CDI. I labeled that. It says old 1998 Yamaha Grizzly 600. And then we've got the new CDI right here. We're just gonna see if there's any differences between the two. So on the back, they look about the same. You know, no cracking or anything. Let's see what the other side looks like here. Everything looks the same there. Fronts of it. Yep. Exact same part numbers and everything on there. That looks good. So I guess all we can do is plug the new one in, see what happens here. So without further ado, let's go plug that guy in. All right down here is where it plugs into. Let's get the bolts out of here. And one more time, we're going to check the connectors just to make sure they're good. Yep. And yep, those look good. All right, let's plug this one into, this is for the stator. I had that off, checking things, making sure it wasn't the stator at all. And we can plug in the new CDI here. That one doesn't want to click in. Wonder why that would be. Try that again. There we go. She clicked. There. Oh, we can get that up there. Bolt it up there. All right. New CDI is installed, stator is all hooked up. Make sure all those wires are good. Everything ohms out correctly, so we have no problems there. Let's check for spark, make sure we're getting good spark before we attempt to fire this thing up. In there. Let's see if we have any spark with the new CDI. That's the first test. Crank it over. Oh yeah, we've got spark. You guys can see that or not. Yeah, good spark. All right, we've got spark with the new CDI. So let's install the plug. First, let's get that plug in here. Right behind here is the oil fill, and then right up here you can see it says 1900 centimeters cubed, so that's about 1900 milliliters, so we can add 1900 milliliters of oil to it. And this takes 10W40 wet clutch oil. And this cover comes right off of here. Okay. And you can see the oil fill, which is right here. We'll put about 2 quarts in there. All right, this is what we're using for oil. Going in. The suspense on this is killing me. I can't wait to see if that CDI fixes the problem. If it doesn't, we'll have to tear into the carb and see what's going on. There has to be something wrong with the carb if the CDI doesn't work. It's almost got to be that CDI, because it would still run better than that, I would think, with a bad carb. Plus it was popping through the carb, like the timing was off and everything, which can be controlled by the CDI, so I don't know. I'm thinking it's a CDI. Perfect right there. Well, new CDI is installed. We've got the wet clutch installed. Stator looks good. All the electronics are ohmed out correctly. We have fresh fuel going to it and fresh oil. So will this thing fire up and go over 15 miles an hour now? We're gonna find out right now. I think instantly once we hear it fire up, we'll know if there's a difference or not. So let's see, here we go, moment of truth. That sounds pretty darn good. See how high that was revving? I think that might have been the fix, but we don't know until we drive it. So let's put everything back on it, attempt to drive it, see what happens. So far it's sounding pretty good. No popping out of the carb, revs out completely. Seems like it might be fine. So it might have been that CDI. Fingers crossed. All right, we're gonna put the air box on right away too. We're gonna keep the plastics off until we know it drives good, but we'll put the seat on and take this thing for a little test drive. That has to be the best feeling in the world. We finally got this thing to run right. Thing is fast and powerful the way it should be. I think we hit like 40 just on the grass there. I mean, it's fast. Oh, so it was the CDI the whole time. So I'm thinking what happened was somebody must have installed the wrong stator on here at one point, and then the guy tried to get it running with that stator, maybe swapped a wire around and it shorted out the CDI, and then it ran like crap ever since then. So huge thank you to Power Sports Nation for supplying the CDI. So if you guys are looking for any used parts for basically any ATV, UTV, you guys know who to hit up. Power Sports Nation pretty much has every part you can possibly imagine. So go hit up their website. Their shipping is extremely fast and their prices are the best around. Let's get the plastics back on this thing and go test drive it some more. We'll see what this thing can do. All right, this thing is completely back together, looking really good. Yeah, this is a really nice looking machine. For $700, I think we got a pretty good deal. So let's go to the land, give this thing a test drive, see what it can do here. We might do some mowing today as well. that's the way it should be running. Easily going 55 now. That is awesome. Completely fixed. Running awesome. Alright, this thing's been sitting for over a year. Let's see what animals are living underneath here. Alright. Something was living on it up here. Well, let's see if this thing fires up today. Will she fire? Let's see. Doesn't sound like the RPMs are up very high. Let's see if the blades go. So last year I was cutting with this thing, and it seems like the RPMs aren't up enough to spin that blade fast enough to cut, and it wasn't cutting that great. We had to go over everything like 4 times for it to be a clean cut. So we're gonna try to work on this thing. The company actually reached out to me when I first bought this thing, which was like, I think 3 years ago now, and they sent me new blades and a new belt. So maybe we'll install that today. So I can manually make the RPMs go up. We're gonna try to adjust the cable a little bit. The blades don't look that dull. I just went underneath here and looked. They're a little worn out, but nothing horrible. You know, they're not that bad. I have new blades too I can throw on there. But these are breakaway blades, so if they hit a rock, it'll go that way and not wreck the whole machine. So yeah, we can always throw on some new blades. But I think it's really the RPMs aren't fast enough. All right, manually set the RPM. Basically the idle adjust all the way tapped out. So it's now going pretty good right now. But as you engage the blades, it seems like it slows down quite a bit. But it definitely sounds better. Check it out. blades are spinning faster. Let's see how it cuts. So it did pretty good. Couple miscuts here, but overall that's pretty decent. Obviously we need to lower the deck probably. That might be the lowest setting though. Let's try to figure out how to lower the deck and I think we'll be good. Alright, so to lower the deck I think all we have to do is put it to the top hole here and that lowers the deck. Try it. Those are some big bolts. This is gonna drop. I don't think it's that heavy. Get my fingers up. Alright. Alright, we probably have to do the backside too. Drop this down. Let's see. I can pick it up still. Alright, now we're going to put these on the back side. Top hole. Alright, deck is lowered, looking good. So now, let's test out the cut, see if it's a little bit better. That's one pass. This thing ran out of gas on the way back. So that's one pass there. And that is like weedy, hard grass. It's really actually pretty tough to cut. I had my zero turn out here, I wouldn't cut it. You had to do like 4 passes with a zero turn, but this cut it right away. I'm liking that. see the mouse nest that was in there. If you don't get that out, it'll overheat. So, see if anything's living in there. Nothing's living in there. I think they all escaped before they got burnt up. This branch is in the way. Fell down. Alright, we gotta cut this down. It's in the path. Alright, tree is all cleared from the path. Looking good. I trimmed up these trees over here. So now this path is wide open. We can now trail ride this. And I couldn't get back here to mow, so let's quick cut this path. That cut pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. One pass, she's done. So, mower's working a lot better now that we got that idle up a little bit. So far this thing's working great. Let's go to the new land. I think it might hit this gate, we'll see. should have waited until we were at the other land to lower that deck. Huh. We don't really have a hill around here to load her up. Shoot. We left the trailer unhitched. Let's see if we can get to pop up. Alright, got her strapped down. Let's get this ATV off. Alright, we got the four-wheeler on and the mower. Let's go head to the land. Just got to the land. Bunch of deer sitting there. Over by my UTV. Alright, now the fun part, unloading everything. What's the UTV doing here? We're gonna cut this so no mice can get to it. It's looking a little rough in here. All right, so we mowed this half of the field and then that quarter of the field. So we're 3/4 of the way done. I got that done in about probably 35 minutes. So usually the zero turn takes me, I think it was 2 to 3 hours to do this field. So that cuts it down by a lot. And I'm going probably 6-7 miles an hour. The mower down there is rated for like 5 miles an hour, but we're cruising right along with it. It cuts pretty decent, you know, good enough for riding. So we'll just do that quick corner there, and that shouldn't take more than probably 20 minutes. But yeah, it's a lot faster. All right, this is where my driveway is. Let's go see if they took the stumps out. All right, looks like most of the stumps are taken out. Take a look. Yeah, most of them are. There's a bunch down here though yet. Other than that, looking pretty good. Yeah, it looks like they still have to come in here with the excavator and get all these stumps out, but it's looking pretty good. Driveway's coming along. Well, the 1998 Yamaha Grizzly 600 is running perfectly. Not a single issue. We rode this thing for probably 4 hours today. Not a single issue, which is pretty darn good. And we really abused this thing. I mean, it was pushing it to the max, you know, pulling that mower uphill the whole time basically. So that was for 45 minutes. We pulled that thing uphill and didn't skip a beat. So I am very, very happy with the way this one turned out. I'm happy we stuck with it and we're able to figure this one out. You know, we've got a ton of time put into this thing, but like I said, I think it was worth it in the end. So we basically checked every single thing on this machine and found that the only thing left was the CDI. And then we swapped that, and sure enough, the CDI was causing all the problems. So it actually caused this thing to overheat. It caused it to go slow. It caused it not to rev out. And if you guys are having similar symptoms on your Grizzly 600, I would check that CDI. You know, they're expensive, but if it fixes the problem with not a lot of work, it's definitely worth it. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video on this one and all the past videos trying to diagnose this thing. It was definitely a lot of work and a big challenge. But at the end of the day, we finally got it fixed. And again, big shout out to Power Sports Nation for supplying the CDI. Couldn't have fixed it without them. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Stay tuned for next video. And until next time, we are out.